know how I am becoming the populist machismo of America. I am so happy when I see the little guy prevail. You know, I think there's this sentiment in the country, and I seem to have caught the virus.
Think how much happier you'd be if you'd moved to Finland.
Yeah. That's right.
Whoa.
Everyone's happy there.
They were the top country in the world.
Yeah.
Over the happiness poll.
Yeah. Why is that? I wonder. They eat a lot of fish there, huh?
I don't know. Maybe they're so happy at winter's over that they're just overjoyed.
Yeah, that's right. Now, is it Iceland? I guess is where all the volcanoes are going on, isn't it? I think they're
having the
big eruptions over there.
Plenty of them there.
Yeah. I've never visited Scandinavia. I'd like to. Well, anyway, we've got some big stuff going on. The reason I started off with the populist thing is because Tony Bobulinski might be the Joe the plumber of this election cycle. I don't know. It remains to be seen. We're going to talk about that, and we have some sound on that as well.
That's a hell of a last name.
Bobulinski. I love that.
Who is this guy?
He's a guy who was a business partner of Hunter Biden, and he testified yesterday in the impeachment committee inquiry. So we've got some of that, and it gets even better. This guy is so good. I've just got so much sound on this. We're going to play this over and over till everyone tells me to turn it off. I was just thrilled. You know how I don't know. We'll get into it a little bit later. So there's that hearing that happened yesterday. Big news, and it really was I don't know whether it's going to go anywhere, but it's one of those flag-waving small guy against the elite, legislator moments, and it just made me very.
Oh yeah, this is right up your alley.
Made me very happy. Markets hit record high yesterday.
Woohoo! And
sadly, on the downside, a lot of violence in the pollen floating around in Colombia. Apparently, I don't know. You know how things are blooming. Maybe it's the Bradford pear pollen, and I don't want to make light of murders, but in the last 3 days we've had 2 murders, multiple shootings. Talking with Brian Hauswirth before we went on the air here, and we're going to be covering that throughout the morning as well, because it keeps the news, of course, keeps evolving on those stories. And of course, the most fun I have, other than interacting with my family here on the air, is with you guys out there that are listening. So 573-874-9390. It's so fun when you guys contribute and become a part of the show. So you can text, you can call. I try to keep up with the text, but I don't know. I have to tell you, once in a while, we had a little post-show meeting the other day, and I had to come clean that I'm trying desperately to try to become really much more digital in my persona and my mastery of digital skills. So when you're texting, you'll notice I'm trying to, Hannah's answering back when Stephanie's here. She's out today, but she'll be back tomorrow. She's answering on the text, but I feel like, I need to do my part, and I'd like to do the text, but I have major FOMO when I don't answer back, because I think people might think that I'm being rude when I don't answer back. So when I don't, it's because I'm not a multitasker like the ladies on the show. You guys, ladies are great multitaskers. The ladies out there chuckling, going, yeah, we know. No news.
It's that darn Y chromosome that you have.
How about you, John? Do you find yourself when you're trying to do one or more than one or at the most 2 things, well, that you end up doing none of them?
Oh, yeah.
Very well.
Guys and their tunnel vision.
Oh, man. I mean, it's just... But that's
Give me
okay.
one task. Let me complete this one before I go on to eat more.
I know. We'll be sitting in the office. It happened yesterday. We were sitting in the office, and Helene was there trying to wrap up some loose ends on things, and I had a difficult, just a complex problem I was dealing with. The patient was done. I was trying to type and part dictate, type, and she's asking a question. Well, I can't get the printer to work. And I'm like, it drives me crazy, because now I have 2 major problems. I'm trying to address the task at hand, which is complete the documentation, and something's not working.
You've got Helene in the mix, who's an accountant in a former life, and it's either a credit or a debit, and that's where it ends, right?
Yeah, but it's something's not working. I can't deal with that. I have to fix it.
It's that Chicken Little gene.
No, it's the I have to fix it gene. That's another gene that the guys have only on the Y chromosome. We have to fix it.
I don't need to call anybody. I can fix this.
Yeah, we need to fix it now. It can't wait until after lunch. It can't wait until the conversation's over. Stop, drop what you're doing. I have to fix it. The window on the car won't roll up. Sorry, stop it. I don't care. I have to fix it. So anyway, my bottom line in this is make sure that you text or call. And then I'm going to try. I keep trying to text back. I'm doing a decent job of it. Sandy says, good morning. Good morning, Sandy. That's the other way to answer back, is that way. 573-874-9390. So let's play this Tony Bobulinski sound, because this just made my day. Listen.
Yet the same people preaching this mantra know better. They continue to lie directly to the American people without hesitation and remorse. Rep. Dan Goldman and Jamie Raskin, both lawyers, and Mr. Goldman, a former prosecutor with the SDNY from New York.
Now, I'm going to interrupt that. Jamie Raskin is sitting here next to Chairman Comer. So he's sitting next to him there with Chairman Comer.
Will continue to lie today in this hearing and then go straight to the media to tell more lies. Hunter Biden's defense attorney, Abby Lowell, weaponizes letters to Congress to try to smear my name
Mr.
and
Chairman.
misstate the cold hard facts.
Mr. Chairman.
In an attempt to save his powerfully connected client and his father. I challenge Mr. Lowell to make those claims on national television so he can be held accountable for his lies.
Now, to set the table, Abby Lowell is the renowned defense attorney there in D.C. who's defending Hunter Biden. Hunter Biden had an empty chair with his name tag there. He didn't show up.
Empty chairs at empty tables, man.
Yeah, I'm sorry. And remember, it was yesterday that Peter Navarro went to prison because he was in, quote, contempt of Congress. I'm sorry. I don't want to go on a rant, but doesn't that tick you off? It ticks me off.
Double standard.
Yeah, double standard.
I'm sorry. It just doesn't. Don't we normal Americans who are just trying to gut out a life, don't we feel as though, man, if you're not holding your mouth right, if you're not donating to the right campaign, if you're not pulling the lever for the right party, you have a different threshold for being prosecuted and convicted.
Yeah, and Bobulinski, I mean, he laid it down there. He was the one who brought up the text that Hunter allegedly sent to the Chinese business guy and demanded payment. Said, my dad is sitting right here next to me as I send this.
Yeah, and wait, there's more. Listen to this.
Prior to my successful business career, I was an officer in the United States Navy.
Check.
At Navy's elite Naval Nuclear Power Training Command, I later served as the command's chief technology officer.
Check. Oh, now he's looking up. All of a sudden, he looks up, and he's got that, he looks up at the dais. Remember, he's looking up. I'm going to say it again. Why do the little people sit down? It's like the Colosseum. He's like the Christians in the Colosseum, and the lions are up on the podium, and these people are. And he looks up at him because Raskin's getting worked up because he just called Raskin a liar. And I'm sorry. Thank you, Tony Bobulinski. Listen on.
Proceed. I apologize for the disruption from the.
That's Comer.
Okay. Am I supposed to say it's
and Raskin's looking at him with contempt. Raskin's like, you dirty, sniveling little guy. I'm Jamie Raskin. I led the impeachment against Donald Trump. He needs a haircut and a hair comb, by the way, too.
my time, Mr. Raskin?
Yeah. But please, Mr. Bobulinski, please.
Okay.
Come to order.
Listen, this is gold.
Mr. Bobulinski, please proceed.
This is gold.
Please proceed. I apologize for the disruption from the minority.
Okay.
Well, Mr. Chairman, save his time, but he called members of this committee liars, and I just want to know whether the order and decorum requirements of House Rule 11 apply to witnesses appearing before the committee. Does it apply or does it not?
It doesn't, is what it comes to.
That silence was loud.
But what he said was amazing, and what he said at one point was brilliant because he said, "Can I ask for my time?" Bobulinski. I mean, it just stopped him cold, and that ticked off Raskin, and I was loving every minute of it.
And Comer said, Comer piped up loud and clear and said, hey, I'll invite Joe Biden to testify about these family dealings.
Great. It's right. Brian Hauswirth, welcome into the program. I know you've been keeping an eye on the murders, but you're a hard-working journalist. John Marsh, a hard-working journalist. Hannah gets 3 hours of sleep a night. I'm working 11, 12 hours a day. I'm not bragging about it, but you guys live out there gutting out a living. Your mom's taking care of kids and everything. And the high and mighty legislators can't let the guy sit up. What does Jamie Raskin, thin-skinned Jamie Raskin, have to worry about? And he is a liar, by the way.
I would say that I'm pretty familiar with just the television footage of what you're talking about in terms of the setup of the room. Obviously, I've not been in that room that hearing took place in Washington. I will tell you, I've been in virtually every House and Senate committee room in Jefferson City. And I will say this, Randy, the way you described it's a little different there, because the ones in Jefferson City, they're a little bit higher as you go up there. The members that are sitting basically on the same level as let's say the witness table, it would be a little hard for those behind them to see them. So the second row's just a little bit higher, and the third row's a little bit higher. I would say for the ones in Jefferson City,
that doesn't fit our narrative, though, Brian.
I know.
Come on.
I know.
It's not so much that it's the way they act that goes to their head.
But I'm saying I don't see it as much in Jefferson.
That's
I really
right.
don't. I
That's
don't.
right.
Now in Washington, it's completely different. They set the rooms up a little different. But
that condescending attitude is just what frosts me. I can't deal with it.
Well, in Jefferson City, we don't have C-SPAN running on hearings 24/7 either.
That's true, but and they do get heated. But nothing like what you see in Washington. But yeah, it is interesting.
This was the best part. Listen to this again.
Proceed. I apologize for the disruption from the.
Listen.
Okay. Am I supposed to say it's my time, Mr. Raskin?
Yeah.
Please.
Oh, and that's when Jamie Raskin am I supposed to say it's my time? Raskin took time from him. It's okay. And I have other clips, and we'll get to that at 6:35, when AOC condescends to this guy. The American people are getting tired of this bicameral. There's the elite. It includes the political class. It includes the donor class. It includes the crony capitalism class. But it doesn't include the guy that owns the tire store or the muffler shop or the premium exteriors. That's not the people I'm talking about. No one minds if someone is owning a company and they make a little more and they have a place at the lake and they have a nice big A truck that is brand newer than mine. You know what I mean? The rest of us, I drive a 7 or 8 year old truck. I mean, how many of you out there are Brian New? We're getting tired of the elitism and it being pushed in our face in one way or another. People are getting tired of that.
Well, it's just we are in a very polarized era, and worse than anything I've ever seen, and it's a shame. It is a shame, and I don't see it. I don't see it going back. Yeah.
Well, before the hour's out, we're going to cover a little more of that, and we'll be playing some of that.
We got a lot of local stuff.
We've got a lot of local stuff at 6:35. Mitch Brown from Cygnal Polling. Now that the race is on, Biden versus Trump, we're going to And we'll be all wearing red tomorrow, so make sure you get prepared for that.
All of us?
I already have red anxiety, Red Friday anxiety, but...
I know a doctor who can help you with that.
Oh, man, not good. Hey, what's going on in D.C.? We already talked about the Bobulinski testimony, powerful testimony yesterday at the impeachment inquiry. The word coming from the reporting there is that there are not enough votes to, of course, impeach him, maybe not even enough to get it out of committee. Representative Tim Burchett from Tennessee is not excited about that. There's others that are lukewarm about the evidence and the strength of it. As far as a smoking gun directly from the various funneling in family influence sources to Joe Biden directly. But you got to wonder, why does he have that compound in Delaware? Why does he have the compound? He's got the beach property as well. Being a senator and a vice president? I don't know. Those speaking fees only go so far. Or those stumbling and gaffe fees in Joe's part.
$3 million deal from the Chinese isn't too bad.
No, it's not bad. No, but it was just but it didn't go. None of it went to him. Judge McAfee down in Fannie Willis land has granted a certificate of immediate review for the Georgia State Court of Appeals, and to see they're going to have to decide. A 3-judge panel will decide whether or not they're going to, in fact, allow the appeal by the defendants, the co-defendant, along with Trump, to get Fannie off of the case. Now, she's got some opponents in the upcoming April election, so there's several different ways that she may end up being off the case. Whether the whole case erodes into nothingness, I don't know. But that's the whole question about the RICO application, when it's not money involved but elections, of course, is in doubt. Speaker Johnson says we have to get our government funded. He and Chucky Baby, I don't really like Israel when it's politically expedient, Schumer, says they came up with an agreement. The House and the Senate, of course, need to now get together, and the bodies at large approve of that by Friday. The time is nigh. It's supposed to be released today. We'll see what the elements of that are.
$1.2 trillion.
Oh, that's just chump change. That's no big deal. And I think
1,000 pages, the legislative document.
And John, the only thing I've heard that's really contentious is the Department of Homeland Security funding. There's a little more in there for technological, border control, but and a little less, a little more in defense spending as well. So we'll have to see where that all goes.
Almost $20 billion for Customs and Border Protection.
Yeah, I wonder if that's for processing or for stop them at the border. The devil's in the details. And oh boy, I don't know. You better kiss your gas-powered vehicle goodbye come 2030. The EPA has issued landmark rules curbing auto emissions. The fleets are going to have to be reduced by 50% of their physical position above the witness. That really, that optic and an auditory cue is not a good one.
Well, so like being in the courtroom where the judge is above the defendants and the accused, etc.
Well, and I'm sure for a lot of them, they probably don't even realize it's probably a subconscious thing, like a psychological subconscious thing.
Yeah. Well, what? And so, I mean, I was thinking maybe that's the platform for the legislators who are running for office.
No pun intended.
That they, one of their policy positions could be, hey, when I get in office, I am going to reverse things. I'm going to put the witness up on the dais, and I'm going to go take the seat down there because I am a servant of the people, and I practice what I preach. Wouldn't that'd be sort of the equivalent of driving around in your red truck, your old jalopy 1965 Ford, and those candidates who have done that.
Not a big A truck.
No, I'm thinking of Scott. Who was the guy up in Massachusetts? Scott. He was the senator for a while. That's how Scott Brown. Remember? He would drive around and go from city to city in old, the round-fendered trucks. You know what I mean?
I'm just a man of the people.
Just a man.
I'm an old farmer.
Sort of like Scott Fawn. I'm just a country boy from right.
No,
Scott.
he calls himself a simple hillbilly.
Yeah,
I
simple
think.
hillbilly.
Yeah.
You're right. Simple my foot. Yeah, right.
Which he needs merch, right? Like, wouldn't you buy Scott Fawn merch? Says I'm just a simple hillbilly.
He's going to get hats made that say, "Let's make Poplar Bluff great again."
Yeah. Well, but wouldn't that be really an interesting thing to do, to take a subordinate position to say, look, I'm serving you. You're not here so that I can grandstand. It has become a performance of sorts, these committee hearings. They've almost become, and you see when they're giving the speeches in the well of the Senate or the House, especially at the national level, those often just turn into campaign commercials. Right, John? I mean, they're just... Yeah.
For sure. At the state level, at the federal level. Gosh, think back to the McCarthy hearings.
Oh, yeah.
Where he was looming large over everyone that testified who were accused of being communists, right down to Ronald Reagan.
Remember that? Ronald Reagan, a communist. Wow. Well, there's another populist thing that I saw that sort of caught my attention. Did you know that the national parks, with a new policy, I guess it went into effect in just a couple years ago, you can't pay by cash. You can't, if there's a $10 entrance fee to go see Yosemite or to get into Death Valley, whatever, you can't pay cash. They don't accept cash.
Yeah, it was just last year they went cashless at all the. What are there? They're like 400 and some sites under the national park system. Yeah, like you said, if it's a $10, $15 admission, you better have your plastic.
429.
There you go.
Oh, there you go. The Google mama of the show. There she is.
I took typing in school. 3 people
have sued the National Park Service earlier this month for not accepting cash payments. Esther Vanderwerf of Ohio, California, Toby Stouffer of High Falls, New York, and Elizabeth Dasberg of Darien, Georgia. Put that on the winners list. These are some of my winners.
Now, wait a second. Is the national park system not like basically a business? And shouldn't business owners be able to make their own business decisions?
That's citing a U.S. Well, you can't pay cash to the IRS.
Yeah. Do you really want to send them a check in the mail? And I mean, they're going to lose it.
There are people listening to this program that do nothing but cash. I've had people come and some of them listen to this program that have come to the office.
Go down to the courthouse at the end of December and look at the people who are in line there to pay cash on their taxes for the year.
Do they accept Venmo?
Oh, here we go with the Venmo again, John.
Good question.
So
it's an honest question.
I have people that come in and want to pay their membership at the practice in cash. We accept the cash. I'm happy to take cash. In fact, if you want to pay cash, I'm going to give you a big hug. Well, not really, but because that would be inappropriate.
Kind of creepy.
But I would love to give you a hug because that means I don't have to pay a 3% swipe fee, which, by the way, we don't yet. That's a good question for the audience. What do you feel? Do you subordinate businesses, restaurants that charge a surcharge for that swipe fee? There are places that are doing that more and more.
State of Missouri does with the license bureaus. If you use plastic when you get your car tags or driver's license, you have to pay a pay a
Poppycock.
fee.
Well, one of my favorite restaurants in Jefferson City, if you're paying in cash, it's like a 5% discount
There
or
you
something
go.
like that.
What's the name of that restaurant?
It's a sushi place.
What's the name of the restaurant?
Love Sushi.
Love Sushi. Put them on the winner. They give you a discount if you pay cash.
I don't know if it's 5% for sure,
Well-
but it's something along the lines.
I don't have my pen. What did I do with my pen? Oh, here it is. I'll make sure and write
The
that down.
IRS is taking notes as we speak. Well, they have a 5% discount for cash, huh?
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Oh, well, I'm sorry. Oh, so now you're guilty until proven innocent. Is that what
Sure
the
it is.
IRS is saying? Phooey on you, IRS. I report
Are you
every penny I make.
surprised?
Careful.
Are you
Oh, that's
surprised?
right. You have an in-house accountant. You're all good.
Yeah.
No, I report every penny I make, by golly, and I would expect every patriotic American would do that. That's the right thing to do, to pay your taxes.
Which, yes, I agree with that. But I also think it's a load of you-know-what, that we have to pay taxes, but the government can't tell us on their own how much we're supposed to owe. They leave it up to you to potentially make a mistake.
Hannah. Time
I'm
for
gonna
Randy
say-
to put on his teacher hat here.
Oh,
Don't you
great.
understand?
Let me go get a drink.
Whether
Do
it
you
is,
really want the government telling you how much you owe?
yeah, right.
I mean, true.
Hannah, look, all government programs, listen to Joe Biden, listen to every they all say it. Obamacare, look at all the jobs it will create. IRS code, the new IRS regulations, look at it, the job. These are government bureaucracy, are nothing but jobs programs. They're not there to serve the people. They're jobs programs. So why would you, they're not there. They're there. No, they're there to tell you after you've paid for your accounting fees and all that, then they have to have more and more and more jobs to go over it rather than just tell you in the first place with a flat tax. If they had a flat tax, think of all the jobs that would go away. Oh my
look
God,
at-
we couldn't do that.
How many IRS agents did they want to add in the last swing?
Yeah, and by the way, they're having a hard
Tens
time.
of thousands?
Yeah, and they're having a hard time finding people that want to work for the IRS. I mean, that's like going to work for the KKK. Who wants to do that? Citing a U.S. code that states U.S. currency is legal tender for all public charges, our stars, Vanderwerf, Stover, and Dasberg, allege that the Park Service's policy is in violation of federal law. Here's the law. It says that cash handling. Okay. Well, here's the problem. What they're saying is that cash handling costs for the government include an armored car contract and park rangers' time counting money. And so in the last year, they collected cash. The Park Service said they collected $22K in cash. This speaks directly to the inefficiency of bureaucracy. $22,000 in cash, and it costs them more than $40,000 to process. That is a bold-faced lie. That's a lie. You can't tell me it costs you twice as much to process the cash than the cash itself.
I
just
wonder
don't
what they're
believe it.
factoring in. Like if they're factoring in the hourly rates of the rangers who had to count it all, drive it to the bank, make the deposit. I wonder how they came to that number.
I'm sorry. That doesn't make any sense.
No,
It's just-
I am horrible. I don't know if this is a generational thing or just me being a knucklehead thing. I'm terrible about carrying cash. I really don't like carrying cash, but I know that I should.
I'm pretty much the same way anymore. It's
Yeah.
like, oh, wait a minute. Oh, the Salvation Army kettle. And now you can swipe a card. But before it was like, sorry, dude, I don't have any cash.
I mean, there's a U.S. code that says U.S. currency is legal tender for all public charges, period. Why are we having an argument? Case closed. Start accepting cash.
Do you carry cash on you?
Yes, ma'am.
Next time I see your wallet laying in the break room, I'm gonna.
Sometimes
check
I'm in
it
a
out.
well. Come on, everyone knows that. Sometimes you're in a hurry and you have to have that. You have to have that big gulp at the Quickie Mart. And you just want to lay down the cash because you're late to getting somewhere. It's easier that way. Plus, there are times when I use cash, especially for small businesses. I try to use cash when I can. I can't always do it, but I try. When I have the cash, I don't carry a lot. But when I do, I don't want that person to incur a 3% charge. It bothers me because that really is a big hit when margins are low. And in a lot of businesses, margins are low.
Well, I know I have some family members who prefer to tip, like at restaurants, with cash, even if they're paying for the
Yeah.
meal on their card.
Yep.
Because then the server can pocket the money right away and not have to worry about any like credit card fees or anything like that comes out of the back end.
Unless you're working with those places where you have a shared tips policy, and then you have to figure that one out.
Yeah. Well, when you're paying those cash fees, those swipe fees, you're taking it in the back end. If you're a business owner, it's not. It's a big deal for business to pay that. So, and it doesn't cost them 3% to process that money. Those Citibank and Discover and all that, the guys are making, and then they're contributing to Democrat causes. So every time you pay one of those fees, those with big companies now, they become darlings of the left. And that's DEI and ESG and ABC and PQR and XYZ. It's crazy. When we come back, I want to talk a little bit about another question I heard. I thought it's a fun one. country direction, presidential polls, some of the other stuff with Cygnal, Cygnal Polling.
Am I reading the show sheet right? Are you going, you're pole dancing at 7:10?
Yeah,
what it says.
That's it, pole dancing.
We're going to get kicked off YouTube.
I love that. That's a great feature. Yeah, I love that, pole dancing. So a little follow-up. Now, I want to make it clear. I am not impugning establishments, like implying that they're making money by charging you a surcharge. I mean, it is strictly a pass-through fee that a lot of places do. And I often will do it and pay it by card because we need the miles when we travel back and forth to see my wife travels to see the grandkids a lot out in North Carolina. So, there's a reason to do it. You all make a decision. And one texter reminds us that, a lot of places just embed that fee in their charges. That makes sense. I think wouldn't you rather just have it be opaque rather than let you know that, if you pay by cash, it's charge, it's a 3% surcharge. I'd rather just not know about it. But I like the discount thing. So one of the texters say, "Oh, Hannah, you just got that restaurant investigated for money laundering."
No.
How cynical are we in America? Let them investigate you. What do you have to hide? If you're doing the right thing, you're reporting what you make, okay. We should always report every penny we make because then that gives you perfect standing to gripe about taxation. But if you don't pay it, then you don't have standing. If you don't obey by the law, you don't really have standing to gripe about it, right? I mean, isn't that the ethical and virtuous way to approach problems like that? I think so. I mean, I don't know. Anyway, sure. Robin says my husband has plastic but refuses to use it. I have to get money out every 2 weeks, so he'll have money in his wallet.
Typical stubborn dude.
I think there's people. Well, another listener says, well, just get ready for the government knowing every penny you make and every penny you spend. We have a central digital currency. We're heading that way.
Is it Venmo?
Oh, Hannah.
Dogecoin.
Can you pay Venmo? Can you pay retailers Venmo?
Not like with your standard Venmo. I think Venmo has their own version of a debit card that I've never really researched, but I think you could maybe use that.
That's a good question.
Well, so I was listening to the Fox News feed on the way in, driving in, and they had, apparently some woman was at a hotel and she ordered off the kids menu, and the server was like, you can't do that. And it became quite a discussion. A lot of people like to order off the kids menu because it's a way to restrict your calories. It's a smaller portion.
Yeah.
It's my way of, not that I do it that often. I've done it once in a while. I want to restrict myself. I want the mini serving so I don't eat as many calories, right? Rather than the adult serving. Should that be, I guess if it says only for kids under 12, okay, I get that. But if it doesn't say that, is there anything wrong with it?
I don't know if I've seen a kids menu that didn't have an age label on it, to be honest.
I don't know. How do you feel about that? Is that something?
Well, if you go into one of the fast food places and get a Happy Meal, they don't care if you're getting a Happy Meal.
I guess the implied problem here is that they're not making money on that kid's meal. How naive can someone be that says, well, they're just being generous, giving you this little kid's meal at a reduced price, and you're not. I don't think they're taking it in the pants when you buy a kid's meal.
Well, and if it's one of those places where kids eat free when you purchase like an adult meal,
no, that's different.
That's different.
No, that's different.
But I think equality for all, right? It's discrimination against adults.
Yes.
When restaurants won't let you order off the kids menu.
That's adultism.
It's ageism.
That's right. That's ageism, by golly.
Well, you see some of the hipper restaurants modify their menu. What would have been billed as a kid's meal is now a small plates offering.
Oh, everything's small plate now, yeah.
Or like a lunch portion versus a dinner portion.
Yeah.
There you go.
You know what I really like? When you go to a restaurant for a first time, especially a nicer place, you haven't been there before, you go there for the first time, we find ourselves splitting things like pasta and big salads more and more.
policies have helped them more than Joe Biden's policies.
Well, New York Times, New York Schmimes polling. We get some real pollsters here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri, namely Cygnal Polling, which has been a top polling organization per 538, for instance, and others. So we're pleased to talk to Mitch Brown, who is with Cygnal. That's cygn.al. Interesting URL. How you doing, Mitch? Thanks for joining us.
Hey, Randy. Thanks for having me back.
Hey, man, we've got some interesting news out from you guys here just almost hot off the press, just recently, just late last week, on the top issues. And I think everyone knows there's sort of 2 or 3 top issues: inflation, border, law and order, foreign policy. But I think things are shifting in terms of priorities. Help us sort that out.
Yeah, so what you're looking at over there is our most recent battleground survey. So each month we're running surveys in what we defined as the battleground states and then additional survey just nationally. And when it comes to, again, nationally, everything has changed in the past 6 months. So inflation was always running as the number one issue, and I've talked to you about it before, but now immigration is kind of taken over with everything. And we touched on this last time. Why that's important is, I said, in 22, a lot of our elections were framed by Republicans as like a battle about inflation or the economy. And that message didn't really resonate and didn't really work well. And one of the reasons why is because when you look at the breakdown of who people trust more based upon issue, Republicans or Democrats, you'll see it's only about a 55-45 split for Republicans on the economy compared to an issue like immigration or the border where Republicans are dominating 75-25. So what we're seeing across the country is immigration soaring to the number one top issue, and that can only be a good thing for Republicans come November.
Okay, well, that's interesting, and I was wondering what was going to happen to inflation. We talked about this a couple weeks ago when some of the numbers in terms of consumer sentiment were trending positive. You know, the Biden constant drumbeat of, inflation's down, and wanting us to hear prices are down, which is not true. But that seems to be having some impact on people. It's like the new normal of astronomically high prices, thanks, Joe, has just become the new normal. Do you think that's what's reflected in inflation now being subordinate to immigration?
Yeah, I mean, well, it's a little bit like you're getting Stockholm Syndrome. Like when you go to the gas pump and you go to the grocery store and you've now been seeing high prices for 3 years, the effect of it starts to wane on you. Like it's just, this is your new normal. But the other thing you're seeing, too, is and why the Biden administration's tried to do this is they've talked about how it's not inflation. It's actually just companies that have started to price gouge instead of saying that it's purely an inflationary-based increase, which is a good talking point for them because then they can then lay that at the feet of Republicans because normal sentiment is that Republicans are more pro-business, more pro-corporation. So that's kind of their little balancing act. But, yeah, like I said, the more you see these high prices and you're seeing them every single day, you do start to become accustomed to it. Yeah.
Have you been able to take a look? You know, we played that clip from MSNBC about, everyone's doing polls. But you guys, you often get into some of the very important, weedy areas. I mean, national numbers as far as Trump versus Biden, national numbers as far as, job approval. I'm not as interested in that, and I think most people that watch the political scene realize national is not really going to make the difference, right, come Election Day. It's what's happening in a handful, maybe 6, 7 at the most, battleground states, right? And that's why I think this battleground analysis is so important. The other thing that is important is, and it keeps just haunting me, how Donald Trump lost a significant number of those so-called, the suburban white, the soccer moms. What can we say about the soccer moms? What can we say about, black women who used to be absolutely in the Democrat camp? We've heard about black men moving. But in terms of those demographics, what are you beginning to see unfold, if anything, yet?
Yeah, so I wrote an op-ed about this a couple weeks ago in Town Hall, and what I said is we're seeing the shift in the political class breakdown in America right now. And Republicans are no longer the Republicans of 2000 or 2004. It's no longer a country club party. That's not how we're going to build a larger coalition. It's not how we're going to win elections. And the more you see it, the biggest breakdown and indicator of how you vote is now your education level and your income. So, again, Republicans are overwhelmingly losing high-income earners and high-educated voters, but they're building a much broader coalition in new minority groups. So black men mostly. Black women still aren't shifting as much, but Hispanic women are.
Wow.
And then, again, working-class voters, so your typical Blue Dog Union voters. I was just in Ohio on Tuesday for primary day and talking to people in Toledo, a city that was interesting enough. There was a chart that came out last week that showed the 5 wealthiest metropolitan areas in the country in 1949, and Ohio had 3 of them. And I was just talking to these people about what their lives are like now, and I kept hearing it from them is that these are people who might have voted for Trump in 16 and didn't vote for Trump in 20, or didn't show up to vote. And just talking to them about their issues, and they again these are voters who are willing to go against their unions, which wasn't a thing 20 years ago. So again, it's building those coalitions of who the new voter is. The suburban white woman might actually not be the path to winning this election for Trump. It can be done without that. Obviously, you can't push them away further, but there's other grounds to make up that can replace that vote because, again, it's an indicator. The more money you make and the more education you have, the less likely you are to vote Republican.
That's an interesting revelation because I've been keying too much on that lost silo, if you will, but I didn't realize there were so many other sort of inputs to make that up and maybe a little bit more. I think it's interesting. We're talking with Mitch Brown. He's the director of political strategy with Cygnal CYGNAL Polling this morning on Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
Mitch, talk to us about the latest battleground poll and your takeaways for the president and the vice president's kind of ever-falling job performance rate, their job security. Is this insurmountable for the Biden campaign?
Again, image-wise, he's not recovering from this. Now, image in job approval is still different than what happens in November. And what we have to remember here is this is, I know everyone says it every cycle, but this truly is a unique election. You have a former president running against a current president. Everyone knows both of these candidates. There's nothing to learn. So there's a swath of voters who they don't care if Joe Biden hasn't delivered for them and voted for him. They will still show up to vote for him. Now we're talking about a group of people who, didn't vote in 2020 or voted for Biden and would have to come back to Trump. What we're seeing, and I've talked about this, is I think it's truly 5 states that are going to sway this election and only 10,000 voters in each of those states. So again, if you go back and look at 2016, Trump won by around 60,000 total votes. If you spread it with the swing states that he won. Same thing with Biden in 20. Again, right around that same number, 60, 70,000. So we're looking at such a small subset of people who can change the election that image, like you talked about nationally, doesn't really matter. And that's why this battleground state is so important, is what's his image in Wisconsin, Michigan, Arizona, Pennsylvania, and Georgia. Those are the 5 states that I think are key. And again, this goes back to what I mentioned before, is how there's been this shift in what the battleground map looks like. If you go back to 2000 for Republicans, you could win Colorado, you could win New Mexico, you could win New Hampshire, and Virginia was a swing state. But also Florida and Ohio were swing states. Those are no longer swing states. Pennsylvania wasn't a swing state for Republicans until Trump came around. Michigan wasn't, and Wisconsin wasn't. Again, it's that blue-collar base, it's that working voter base that can bring this for Trump. So again, look at how people feel about Biden in these places. And again, there's other factors going around where we might inadvertently be helped by protest votes in Michigan from the Islamic community. There's so many other factors going in here that's why you really have to break it down by those small portions of voters that actually matter on Election Day.
I think, Mitch, that's this fascinating stuff. Did I hear you say, I want to make sure I didn't have a little skip in my ear here, you think this could be determined in 5 states, the national election, 5 states by as little as 10,000 votes in those states? That's pretty remarkable.
There's a very good chance that this could be 50,000 voters spread across those 5 states that decide who's president, because, again, roughly that same size group has decided 16 and 20.
Okay, so that begs the question. We've talked about pro-Republican issues, and you've just outlined in the latest polling that you've done that, immigration has now topped inflation. What about this big 60 trillion pound gorilla in the corner of the room, which is the abortion issue? How is that going to factor in those very important battleground states?
Again, this is a tough one, like for Republicans to overcome, is why issues have to be framed a certain way. Again, what I talked about is inflation. It's something that people see every day and they say they care about, but what actually drives people to vote and why Cygnal kind of grew as a polling firm is we test emotions, because, again, people don't vote with their mind, they vote with their heart. So, again, messaging is very effective for Democrats when they can go on to a TV set and say, X candidate is a MAGA extremist who wants to put women in prison. So that's always going to stir up an emotion. And so when we talk about this suburban woman vote, that ad's going to be very, very impactful. And like I talked about before, the more money you make, the less you're going to care about anything else. And that's why abortion's so effective in like the mainline suburbs of Philadelphia or in some of these New York seats that are going to be swing seats. That issue won't be as prevalent in these, again, the swing districts I'm talking about in the Rust Belt, like Ohio 9, for example. So, again, it's balancing that out, because what you also need to do, I think I talked about this with you a couple months ago, too, was the only way to really stop this is you have to go on the offensive instead of just playing defense. Republicans have this terrible habit of like kind of trying to dance around the issue and start throwing out numbers or whatever. It's paint your opponent, make them have to take a stance and say, do you support abortion day of? And make them have to go out and say it instead of you being always on the defensive, having to backpedal.
Yeah. I think that is sage advice. And, the whole discussion against is perfect the enemy of better when it comes to the absolute bans, which have not fared well. And we're looking at an initiative petition potentially, unless the legislature does some reform, here in Missouri, that could end up doing the same as it went in Kansas and in Ohio. You end up with worse than what you had if there was been a more moderated, position. And I'm not going to, litigate that now, but we've got to settle that in the Republican/conservative side of the aisle. Mitch, it's always great when you talk with us. I hope we can just talk on a regular basis, get the latest updates, see the way the trends are going as we move through this very, very critical election cycle. Thanks so very much for being with us.
Thanks for having me, Randy. I'll be here anytime.
All right. There he is, Mitchell Brown, Director of Political Strategy for Cygnal. It's a great, great polling organization. I love the way they envelop the emotive component. That's very, very important. Super good. Coming up, what's hot with Hannah? We'll see what other sushi places she likes, maybe. I don't know. We'll see. Stay tuned to more Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
home. They did clothing, like you could do socks, bed comforters, everything in between. Hidden Valley this spring is making headlines yet again because they're releasing a bunch of new flavors.
Oh, boy. Taylor Swift, stand out of the way.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that. One of the first Chiefs games that Taylor Swift went to, she was spotted eating chicken tenders.
Yeah.
And it looked like she had mixed ranch dressing and ketchup, I think it was.
Oh.
And so Heinz did like a limited edition. They mixed ranch and ketchup in one bottle and called it seemingly ranch and ketchup or something like that.
Oh, that's funny.
Cute.
But no, Hidden Valley, actually, it's a big drop. 7 new flavors. And they include Nashville Hot Ranch. So, like, Nashville Hot Chicken is a big thing. I'm a wuss when it comes to spicy stuff. So, not interested in that one. There is a spicy hot honey ranch. A lot of people like to put hot honey on pizza, like pepperoni pizza.
Yeah, and then you
like
can
the
tell
salty and sweet thing?
That's the goodbye pizza. Remember there was the hot honey goodbye pizza.
This one I'm into, Parmesan ranch.
Ooh,
that sounds good.
Yeah. Pile on the calories, cheese on top of the sour cream. Yeah.
The most unique one, a Cheez-It flavored ranch. They're calling it Cheesy Ranch.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've got Green Goddess Ranch, which is just an herby.
Ooh.
Oh, see, that one to me was not exciting.
Helene is Miss Savory when it comes to the cooking. She'd love that.
There is a creamy jalapeno ranch.
Oh, yeah. Sign me up now.
Which I think is what Taco Bell uses in a lot of their menu items. Yeah. So that's exciting. And the one I'm the most excited about is garlic ranch.
Oh, sounds good.
I am a big garlic girly.
Wow.
Like, the more garlic, the better. It keeps people out of my personal space, too, so it's a win-win.
I like that. Now, one of the texters said that cauliflower and ranch is very good. Ugh. So that would be for you. I think that was directed for you, Hannah.
I'm not seeing that text. Weird.
Ranch and ketchup on a burger is in and around Columbia in a few moments with Brian Hauswirth, who's been reporting on that. There's so much to gather. He's been frenzied trying to figure that all out. And he'll be in a little bit. But before we do that, it's not even Feel Good Friday. And there's good news from Hannah's perspective.
There is?
I mean, Hannah's glowing when she heard me say, did you hear about Biden? He's forgiving some more student loan debt. I mean,
oh, thank goodness.
You were effervescent when I said that. But then we found the truth.
The stupid truth.
The stupid truth. The incremental relief of $5.8 billion in additional student loan debt now comes up to $144 billion totally for nearly 4 million Americans with all of the end arounds that he's done. Okay, let's see if you check one of these boxes, Hannah.
Okay.
78,000 borrowers, accumulating to $5.8 billion in federal loans. Teachers?
No.
Firefighters?
I'm a fire wife.
Oh, well, does Brandon have loan?
No.
And others who largely work in the public sector. Well, wait a minute. We're on an FCC-regulated airwave here at 104.5 News Radio, 950 KWS, and 93.9 The Eagle. That's a public space.
Isn't the broadcast industry under infrastructure?
Yeah, I'm thinking. I don't know. Maybe we...
Okay.
Might have to look into that one.
John, you sound skeptical.
Yeah, we're a privately held company operating in the public interest, I think they'd say.
He's trying to say that the latest...
We're subject to the rules and regulations of the FCC, but we're still a private company.
Latest debt erasures apply to government and nonprofit employees in the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program, which can eliminate their balance after 120 payments, 10 years.
Doctors and nurses fall under this heading.
Yep. Some of them are getting forgiveness. They get paid back if they do so many years of service in underserved areas. So there's restrictions on where they serve.
See, they serve the community by saving lives. I serve the community by pushing everyone's buttons and being a smart ass on air. I mean, it's not too big of a bridge to jump, I don't think.
Yeah, I think we ought to charge you for that. So, no
it's kind of
luck
like
there.
being a social. She could fall under the heading of being a social worker.
There you go.
I like it. I do lots with our social media.
And when I get frustrated because the thread that we have going, I can't find the right thread, you come to my rescue. You're a first responder in that. Can't we? I don't know. I'm fighting for you here.
I'm going to send this segment to Joe Biden. Hey, Prez.
And you had a little mishap with your student loan stuff.
Oh, yeah. It was user error. I have it set up for auto pay.
Yeah.
Right? So it just debits my account every month. My husband and I finally opened our joint bank account.
Was that so you could buy marijuana?
No.
Oh, it was an account held in both names.
Yes.
I thought it was for the...
Which I
thought it was a line of credit with the dispensary.
We've had a joint savings account for a long time, but this is our payroll. Both of our payroll goes into this account now.
Yeah.
So we're officially married.
Okay.
I forgot to update my payment information.
Ooh.
And so it took the full loan payment out of my old bank account that it was still open, and it overdrew me by $150. So
you pay an overdraw fee?
Luckily, I caught it in time.
Oh. Some banks have protection in that regard. It's
well, a lot of times if you catch it before that business day is over, you don't get the charge.
So you didn't have to pay a penalty.
Right, but it scared me.
Yeah.
To see your bank account overdrawn is not a fun feeling.
Mm-hmm. Well, okay, that would make one mad. That wouldn't make you mad enough to shoot someone, though. We don't know why people are shooting one another, Brian Hauswirth, but it's happening all over. Is it the Bradford pear pollen? What the heck's going on?
I wish I had a better idea on a motive and if any of these are connected or not. So there's a couple of things here I want to pass along to everyone. We have had, and our news partner ABC 17 did a great job last night, Megan and Lucas and Nia, leading the newscast at 10 with a map of the incidents. Great, and I used to work there. Great respect. The only thing I would disagree on, and I shouldn't say disagree, there's a term, when I hear shooting, I would prefer shots fired if someone wasn't hit. Because a shooting to me insinuates somebody was killed. But I get why they're doing it. So there have been 5 shots fired. In 2 cases, people have been hit by gunfire. Outside of that, everything was spectacular in their newscast. I actually texted Lucas during his 10 o'clock, let him know about the latest. So here in a nutshell is what happened yesterday, and then I've got an update on the Walmart homicide as well. We had, when I was in court yesterday covering the Walmart initial arraignment for Isaac Hollis, about that time there was a man who was shot to death on Doris Drive. Doris Drive is off of Creasy Springs. It's north of I-70, where the Aldi's is on I-70. There's an Aldi's and the food bank. It's north of there. It's up by Cosmo Park. Okay. Doris Drive residential area. Man was shot. Somebody else injured. Nia Hinson reports. We don't know if that person was shot, hit by maybe shrapnel. I don't know. At this point, police, by the way, have not put out anything on social media. They've been very tight-lipped about it, and I get that. Maybe it's still under investigation.
What's the status of that man?
He's dead. One's dead. The guy on Doris Drive.
Okay.
One is dead, one injured.
Okay.
There was also shots fired on Volunteer Drive yesterday, and then last night during Lucas's 10 o'clock news, I was listening to the scan. The scanner just went crazy last night, just absolutely crazy. It was on Bellevue Drive out by Scott Boulevard. We have listeners, I'm sure, who were out there that actually shut down Scott Boulevard. Bullets fired into a home.
10 or 12 cruisers there. I saw in the ABC News picture.
Yeah, I was hearing people had to hide in their closets and stuff like that, but they had to send the police. Nobody got hit by the gunfire. We don't know if it's connected to the stuff if it's separate, I don't know, but they were looking for a number of people. Nobody's been arrested as far as I know. And then Popeyes is still under investigation. There's nobody was actually hit by gunfire, but a woman's windows were blown out by the gunfire.
That was the night of the Walmart murder.
It was, same night. And then the Walmart murder the Popeyes, that was Monday. Popeyes was Tuesday.
Okay,
yeah, exactly.
Okay.
In the Walmart murder, I've got a quick update on that. I covered Isaac Hollis's initial arraignment. He's 25 years old. He was wearing a gray jail jumpsuit. He was on video. He told the judge he's working to get an attorney. He said very little, no emotion, by the way, displayed absolutely no emotion. He told her, I'm working to get an attorney. And then the judge, and I've read all the court documents, so the police have still not released the victim's name even right now. The judge in open court referred to the victim as DG, which means his initials, it would be a male, are DG, but that's all we have. And now I don't know if DG's family was in the courtroom. There were a lot of alleged criminals sitting around me, in front of me, behind me. I don't know if they were there. They could have been. I don't know. But I have an updated story on that, 939theeagle.com. So bottom line, 5 separate incidents at least that we know of. Then I heard the scanner going off on all sorts of other stuff going on. The police have their hands full. They are down. I'm going to repeat it for those of you in the back of the room. We have to repeat it for some of the folks out there. The police are short 37 officers. I'm going to say it again, Randy. The Columbia Police Department is short 37 officers.
So what would be a full staff?
A full staff would be, we'll get that.
Ballpark. 150?
It would be in that range.
And we're down to somewhere around 100, in the teens, right?
It's...
And not all of those are patrolmen. I mean,
some of them are in the office, and they've got people that work in the lab. I mean, they're down 37. I check Jeremiah Hunter, who listens to this show. He's the assistant chief. I check with him every week on the number, and it was 37 or 38. He said his words on Friday, and that fluctuates. It was 40 a couple of weeks ago, but it's 37 or 38. They do the best they can. They're understaffed. We know that. Lisa Myers made this a very big issue in her second ward campaign. But here's the thing. When you have a shooting like the one on Scott Boulevard where they have to shut the highway down, or Walmart where you got a guy killed in a busy parking lot, then they have to go find him and arrest him on Brickton, and then Popeyes, multiple. And the suspects, actually, there were a couple incidents that night at Popeyes. That takes they have to send a lot of manpower and female officers down there as well.
So that diverts needed resources from other places.
It does. And it's just they're doing and they're solving a lot of these cases. But in the one at Walmart, the witnesses don't have to worry about coming forward. Everything is on video. The other ones, not so much. In
doorbell cameras, maybe?
They were going to look at some of that. Yes, they were actually going to a gas station last night trying to get some surveillance video.
You got to wonder with the chronology and the time component here, so close in time. You wonder if there's a relationship, if there's retaliation, something else.
I will tell you, it very well could be.
I don't know. That's speculation.
We don't know, and I would caution everybody. Let's not. because we want to be careful because, the thing at Walmart, that very well could have been a road rage incident. I'm still unclear from the court documents, and they're so redacted. I don't know. They were yelling and cursing at each other going into the store, and yelling and cursing each other on the way out. But I don't know if it started from maybe they knew each other. I don't know. Or if they got into it as they were trying to park. That parking lot is hard to negotiate. It is hard, but it's just a lot of these are just so senseless.
Has anyone done a study?
They're senseless.
Most of them are men, almost exclusively.
Correct.
Has anyone done a study on when they get these people in? I got to ask a detective sometime. Maybe our friends from COPD know this. Do they take blood samples for caffeine? Everyone's drinking Monster drinks.
I don't know that.
I mean, caffeine jazzes you up.
I doubt it.
Caffeine fires you up. And I mean, people are drinking extraordinary amounts of caffeine. When I'm in there getting my bottle of water or my Bai or whatever, I don't do the caffeine thing. I do enough coffee to put you on fire. But it jazzes people up. You have young men full of high testosterone, which is an aggressive hormone. There's got to be a reason for this. It's not the gun. It's the person behind the gun. There's 300 and some odd million guns in this country. It's something about the culture. Is there a chemistry thing here with the combination?
Drug trade's a lot of it.
Well, and John, you could be right. A lot of times the court documents really don't. It's so redacted. We don't have a real good idea of exactly what causes it. We get a hint, and then I'll be able to get some other stuff when I go to court. But when I interviewed, and I've said this several times, we need to have Lonnie Lockhart Bay on this show. He's a convicted murderer. He helps run the youth center here in town. I've interviewed him as part of my series on the youth center, and he is reformed his life. He's trying to get these young people he doesn't want them to go down that route, to go to prison. He's urging them to go. And what he told me is that they are being influenced by outside forces from out of town. And it was all part of but he said that and it was in the soundbite I played. He said it. He said these people, some of them are wearing their pajamas to the movies, and he's trying to dress appropriately. It's about they don't tolerate any bullying. No, they're really trying. They're doing the best they can. They don't have a facility up north, and they don't have one east, but they've got one down on Providence and Ash. They're trying, but the point is, the guy at Walmart was 25 years old. And worked at FedEx. He had a job. And yes, he had one conviction, peace disturbance, and I actually still have not been able to find it, maybe from another county or another state, but basically no criminal record. So in a lot of the ones you talk about, you and I, they're just out of prison.
Right.
But in some of them, they don't have a record. So it's just... Yeah. And the guy got shot in the back. He was shot in the back at Walmart and then shot several times trying to run away.
The guy circles around, and as the guy's running around,
People who visit them start off at Yosemite. Really annoying that it is the same way in and out. The scenery is not breathtaking.
Wow.
I need someone to explain to me the hype of this place. The place looks like any place with mountains and trees. Too many people, not enough stores, not enough places to buy food. And as somebody who back in the day climbed Church Bowl, Pat and Jack and all that, I call foul on your take on Yosemite.
Yeah,
go climb El Cap if you're tough enough.
Yeah, one beautiful park. Beautiful.
Hawaii Volcanoes National Park. The guy said, absolutely horrible disappointment. There wasn't a single pickleball court in sight. Smoky Mountains National Park in North Carolina. Some falls and streams had nothing but toddlers peeing and pooping in the water.
Ugh.
Can't say this is one of my fave national parks. No bear sightings. The haziness gave me a headache. Zion National Park in Utah. The mountains are beautiful, but they didn't seem any different, so I didn't see the value in trying to hike around all of them. Noxious weeds everywhere. And Glacier National Park in Montana. Where are the glaciers? Disappointing to stand at the lookouts with glaciers in the distance and signage showing glaciers were here 50 years ago. And finally, I didn't have to run from a single mountain lion. Boring. Now you know the rest of that story.
And it's even worse when they won't take your $10 bill to get in.
Exactly.
Oh, man, I tell you.
These people complaining about Yosemite. I mean,
I don't get that one. That is,
come on, you know.
Ansel Adams took some of the most iconic pictures ever, you know.
Of El Cap and Half Dome and all of those, yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful places.
I love Yosemite. I haven't been there in a long time.
Did you actually climb one or more of those?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Climb Church Bowl's one people know. There's Pat and Jack Pinnacle, and I mean, they're like 5s. They're not even 6s, but I mean, they're not, you know, not the nose on El Capitan or something like that.
Well,
but
I didn't, So when they were remodeling the Capitol building there, and then you should have been up there on the scaffolding. I mean, you're not afraid of heights. Yeah. You do rock climbing?
I think OSHA might have a problem with that, though.
Do you do rock climbing? Have you ever been on one of those rock climbing walls? I've never tried that.
Yeah, I have. They've got a cool one at the Y here.
Yeah?
Yeah.
It looks incredibly difficult. I
haven't done one in a while, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's fantastic. And I don't understand why those people are so negative on Yosemite. That's like I always thought one of the people, when you ask people what are some of the most beautiful places you've been in America, that frequently comes up in conversation.
Sure. Yeah.
And then, of course, there's the Grand Canyon, and there's, I've never been up in the Northwest, though, in some of those, the Badlands and in some of those areas. The Utah, what is it, the Zion? I've never been up to Zion. I hear that's a beautiful park as well.
Yeah, Zion, Utah. Yeah.
And
that's one where the guy said there were noxious weeds
headquarters. This is Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
Get ready, pal.
Here's your host, Randy Tobler.
Welcome back into Wake Up Mid-Missouri. It's clouding up out there after a few sunny days. We might have a little sprinkle palooza tomorrow. Is that right, Hannah? I think so.
There's a chance for it.
Been awfully dry. I know that farmers are watching the weather conditions like we watch the political conditions. And I know that Garrett Hawkins, who's our guest this segment, he's the president of the Farm Bureau, is watching the weather too. You just came back from a fly-in, right, Mr. Hawkins? Thanks for being with us.
Hey, guys. Good morning. Yeah, we actually just had our annual fly into Washington, D.C., and 96 Missouri Farm Bureau members were there walking the halls of the Capitol and doing the work of this organization. And now everybody's glad to be back home on the farm.
Well, yeah, right. I mean, things are getting ready, right? They're heating up, our life on the farm, even though maybe
Yeah, I mean, we've had such a really mild winter. Just the amount of fertilizer that has gone on pastures and fields in the month of February was just really crazy just because the weather was conducive. So people have been itching for some time, but appreciate you guys touching on just how dry it is because, we continue after really 2 years of drought. That's really prevalent on folks' minds that, while none of us like feeding hay in mud in winter, we really do need some moisture, but now people are really itching to get in the field.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that. So, what does the Missouri Farm Bureau do when you're facing climatic change like this? It goes through cycles, and we're not going to get into the discussion about global warming and John Kerry and all, but it's a reality, and it impacts the farmers. It impacts the consumers who depend on the farmers. So on what different levels, technical, scientific levels, lobbying for relief level, what different levels does Farm Bureau do to help manage these situations?
Well, that's a great question. I think that really gets back to why we were in Washington, D.C. last week, or one of the reasons, and that was to call on Congress yet again to renew the Farm Bill. So the Farm Bill has been in place for decades and is the mechanism by which Congress provides risk management tools for farmers and ranchers of all sizes and all types of commodities. And this piece of legislation has to be renewed by Congress every 5 years. Well, Congress didn't get the job done by September 30th of last year, so now we're operating under an extension. But you don't have to travel far outside of the city to talk to farmers who say, the world has really changed a lot in the last 5 years. I mean, heck, we've gone through a global pandemic. Supply chains have been upended. And we're all still trying to get back to normal after what has been a tremendous inflationary period. So bottom line, we have farm policy and in some cases risk management tools that need to be updated to reflect just the changes that we've seen in the economy over the last 5 years. But a farm bill is stalled in a Congress that is struggling to even pass spending bills, right, to keep the doors of Congress open, or the doors of government open. So that was one of the big issues that we were working on in D.C. yet again, to put a real face with the issue and to remind members of Congress that this piece of legislation should be a priority, because it's not just about risk management tools for farmers. Ultimately, the Farm Bill is a food policy bill, a food security measure for all of the United States.
All right. That's Garrett Hawkins, president of the Missouri Farm Bureau, just back from a advocacy trip to D.C.
Garrett, talk to us about how Farm Bureau's PAC picks the candidates they endorse. I mean, you look down the list, you see Josh Hawley, Eric Schmidt, and Congressman Alford and Eric Burleson. They're not farm guys. But you got Mike Keogh, who likes to talk about having a small cattle operation, being a first-generation farmer. The guy who's a longtime farmer from a farm family, State Senator Jason Bean. Talk to us about the process and how the PAC picks those endorsements.
So for any of your listeners, if you know Farm Bureau, you know Farm Bureau is a grassroots organization and has been since we were the first state Farm Bureau founded in 1915. So we're organized at the county level. And every county Farm Bureau has a say, so to speak, in the policy development process for what issues we work on in Jefferson City and Washington, D.C., as well as the positions that we sometimes take on candidates who are seeking office. So we have what we call trustees. In every county farm bureau, there is one person on the county board that serves as the Political Action Committee trustee, the voice and the face of that county in these meetings. And so PAC trustees have annual meetings every February. They get together, they review and look at races that are upcoming. They decide if they want to give friendly incumbent endorsements to candidates who have proven themselves to be staunch advocates and fighters for agriculture and rural communities, which is why you saw the friendly incumbent endorsement for instance, Senator Josh Hawley in his bid for re-election. But you also have, as the politics have changed in Missouri and more, frankly, some races being decided in primaries, our members are paying more attention and wanting to wade in. And you saw that their longtime relationship with and working relationship with Mike Kehoe resulted in an endorsement in the gubernatorial primary.
That's news.
Garrett, the political stuff aside, I know Missouri Farm Bureau is also passionate about ag education with the next generation. I was sharing with you off air that I, of course, was an FFA member in high school. And my former ag advisor, Mr. Stone. So shout out to Mr. Stone.
Mr. Stone.
Yes. And it's actually, March has been National Ag Month. And then, of course, this week is National Ag Week. How has Missouri Farm Bureau been reaching out to the next generation during this, not only during this month, but as a whole?
Yeah, great question, Hannah. It's pretty remarkable when I start looking at the metrics from across the state. We've had at least 85% of our county farm bureaus that have been involved in some sort of activity that gets back to telling the story or spreading the message of agriculture. I've seen everything from farm city breakfasts to help unite and break bread and to talk about issues. I've seen coloring contests for kids, library story time. We had a number of our members, including partnerships with local FFA chapters in southern Missouri that have resulted in donations to the Ronald McDonald houses in Springfield and Joplin. It's always fun to see FFA chapters represented at those events as we think about how to lift up families during their times of need. So, March is great from that standpoint of all of these activities that are going on that are a reminder as we go into a growing season just how blessed we are to be a part of agriculture and really a food system that is the envy of the world. But really, we celebrate agriculture and its contributions to our communities year-round, and that's why our legislative agenda, particularly in Jefferson City, really reflects that we are focused on the issues that not only affect today's farm families, but are going to help pave the way to bring the next generation home to the farm and to our communities.
Garrett Hawkins is our guest. He is with the Missouri Farm Bureau president. They are the state's largest general farm organization. His hometown, folks, if you've been there, you'll know it. Appleton City, some of the best darn apple pie you could ever imagine. As I well know, in Clinton, Missouri, not too far from there, some darn good breakfast as well. Garrett, there is an issue, and I profiled it 939theeagle.com, KWS.com, but it involves the Grain Belt Express and State Representative Mike Hafner's bill, basically to expand the Missouri Public Service Commission from 5 to 7. 2 of them would have to be farmers or engaged in farming in the past. Under his bill, every commodity group virtually has endorsed it, including the Missouri Farm Bureau. The utility companies are on the other side, and it all involves the grain belt, which essentially would cross the state through northern Missouri from Buchanan all the way to Marion County. How important is that bill?
Very important. And I think it's one more piece of the puzzle, frankly, as we look at how we position Missouri to be the beacon and the example nationwide of how we balance energy security with that of property rights. So as we think about the Public Service Commission, they are the watchdog, for lack of better words, of the utility industry. And as we see an administration in Washington, D.C. that is determined to transform power generation and transmission like we have never seen since electrification came to this country, it behooves us that we make sure that we have a utilities watchdog that is modernized in terms of its processes, as well as modernized in making sure that there are people on the commission that understand and respect private property rights and know that that has to be a factor in these discussions and debates. So that's one piece of the puzzle. We're also pushing for legislative approval of mega transmission lines. Team, frankly, there are people in Washington, D.C. and on the East and West Coast that want to make Missouri the transmission superhighway for the Green New Deal. And that means that our farmers and landowners are yet again going to bear the brunt of those aggressive policies. And we believe that's wrong and believe that there should be more thoughtful discussion in Missouri that truly shows that Missouri can balance energy issues with property rights.
Thank you, Garrett. Appreciate it.
Garrett, I was talking to my buddy Eric, who farms in Miller County, and he's getting darn tired, like a lot of Missouri farmers, going broke buying hay out of Arkansas just to feed his stock. And then the guys from Rosebud Tractor, one of our great advertisers, were in yesterday, and they had real concerns. And the line to me was, it's hard to sell mowers and rakes and balers when you don't have hay to cut.
Yep. I was the same way last season. For the first time in many years, every bale of hay that I have fed this winter came from South Arkansas as well. It has been a real problem because I had little to no carryover because of drought from the previous year. So it is something that's really a concern because you think about it, we are at historic lows when it comes to beef inventory across the country in terms of the cow-calf herd. We've got to make sure, that's a huge part of Missouri's ag economy, and it's definitely on my mind that we've got to pray for better weather this year that produces a hay crop that year in, year out makes Missouri the number 2 state when it comes to hay production. But the last couple of years have been a tremendous challenge and drain on the pocketbooks of my fellow cattlemen.
Now, Mr. Hawkins, being the responsible physician that's looking out for everyone's health,
Randy,
and
don't
also,
do it.
and also being an amateur country farmer from the city, I'm volunteering for your scientific and medical committee. If it doesn't exist, I'm ready to be a charter member, and I have a little advice for you and all the friends.
Okay.
We have
Garrett's about to take advice from the city slicker over here. Get ready, Garrett.
We have a friendly debate here about aside from what people may perceive as a difference in flavor and texture with grain finished versus grass finished beef. And my wife did her PhD on grass finished beef and the advantages of the fats contained therein. They're a healthier fat constituent. And so I'm going to put a couple of things together for you here. You're struggling with hay. Have you thought about raising a healthy stand of warm season grass on your property so that you have abundant, deep-rooted, drought-resistant, native Missouri grass that would supply grass, and then you could finish some, and there are certain breeds like Red Angus, I understand, are very, very good. They're drought.
Yeah.
And then you could do. And by the way, folks, we're having a lot of fun here. I am so thankful that, being the inclusive DEI organization that you are, you have I'm kidding, on your search engine here, I'm seeing all kinds of grass finished, providers throughout the state. So you're inclusive. You don't reject people that for the health benefits may want some grass-finished beef, maybe raise some, Indian grass, some blue stem, big and little blue stem. And there's a way to manage this. Would you like me to come and give a seminar there at the farm bureau in the next couple of days?
You've sold me on your passion, right? Just come on down. We'll put you on. We've got a commodity conference every August. We can put you on the speaker rotation.
The truth is, when you wet age that beef, it's actually pretty good. You have to treat it special, but it's pretty good. And there are a lot of suppliers that do that for those of you who want the healthiest beef. Objectively, it's the healthiest. I'm not saying it always tastes the best, but it is the healthiest. Hey, thanks, Garrett, for being with us.
Go to our ag directory, and you can find lots of options at MOFB.org.
And being a good sport. Garrett Hawkins, President of Missouri Farm Bureau, thank you very much.
Hey, thank you, team. Appreciate it.
We'll be back.
Doc's on the payroll for the Hereford and Angus Association, sounds like.
No. We'll be back with the Morning Bell right after this.
This is Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
The story that matters to me most in the news is the ones that get people excited, the ones that are inspiring and have love in them and give people hope. Now I'm walking on sunshine. Whoa, I'm walking on sunshine. Whoa, I'm walking on sunshine. Whoa, and it's time to feel good. Hey, all right now, and it's time to feel good. Hey, yeah. I used to think maybe you love me. Now I know that it's true.
It's getting better if you think that stealing from your children is good. That's what the economy is. I don't know. It's like borrowing $100,000 or $100 million or $1 trillion from your future. Sooner or later, you got to pay it back, and sooner or later, someone's got to pay for it.
The incivility of American politics, as it currently stands, has gotten way out of hand. It's unrecognizable from what it was supposed to be. Nothing really gets done except whatever the person with the most money wants to get done, and it's not about helping the people anymore.
My favorite news subject to talk about is politics in general. I have a degree in political science. I find the whole Donald Trump presidency and the reactions from the media and the Democratic Party and the Republican Party absolutely fascinating as a study in political science.
Incivility of American politics? Yes, it's going downhill, and I think there's no end in sight unless we get rid of this idiot president that we have.
That's it. Well, it's time for the morning bell. We're a little late, but we were having some fun there, and Mr. Hawkins gave us some good news that they're doing great work in behalf of Missouri agriculture on all levels. I'm glad to see that. All the education, the variety of things that folks can do, and family farms or big corporate farms. It's all good. Dow rises 400 points yesterday, along with the other indices, closing at record highs after the Fed said, well, there's still 3 rate cuts in order this year. So they may be on the way. We don't know when, but they didn't shut the door on those, which is great to see. They held rates, which was predicted, at the 23-year high and maintained expectations for those 3 cuts. And so the Dow Jones Industrial rallied 400 points. S&P up almost 0.9% to close at, 5,200, up above 5,200 for the first time. And the NASDAQ, which has been climbing anyway, jumped 1.25%. So that is some big news. Glad to see, and we hope that that will continue today, and it looks like it may. Futures are up, 120 on the industrials, and S&P 500 up 26. So NASDAQ up as well, 177 in the NASDAQ. That's great. Well, when they're throwing, $8 billion grants to Intel, what do you expect? I don't know. So that's great. What is oil doing today? I didn't get a chance to look at that. Commodities. Oil's down a little bit. Down to $81
Gas went up
an hour.
again.
Gas lags behind oil. Larry Behrens is going to be subbing for Gary today, right? So Larry is an expert in that field, so I'm sure he'll be addressing what's going on with the gas price. Welcome back into Wake Up Mid-Missouri. We're going to be talking with the Jefferson City Parks and Recreation folks at 8:50, see what's going on there. It is a time to get out and enjoy parks, and I always enjoy and see what they're doing in parks, what flowers are growing, what plantings are planting, because I like to then maybe borrow some of those for my own ideas at home.
Well,
That's a lot of fun.
I hope their numbers have recovered after their last visit where they teased that John was going to be ice skating in a tutu and tights.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure they probably took a hit after that, so hopefully they've recovered.
Well, the website
Don't be so sure.
They took down the video shortly after the website crashed. I know. The
world wasn't ready.
But the world was ready. I think you and I and so many other people that are just sick and tired of the bobbing and weaving, the dodging of the truth about the Biden family influence peddling and what appears to be some pretty solid evidence of some transfer of funds to the big guy as a result of his vice presidential influence. We're tired of that story being dismissed and testimonies from people that were there firsthand, primary witnesses to the event, like Tony Bobulinski. And so he was up in front of Congress the other day, and here's what it started.
Directly to the American people without hesitation and remorse. Rep. Dan Goldman and Jamie Raskin, both lawyers, and Mr. Goldman, a former prosecutor with the SDNY from New York, will continue to lie today in this hearing and then go straight to the media to tell more lies.
They were in the hearing. Raskin was sitting next to James Comer, the chair of this impeachment inquiry committee, and Bobulinski was Hunter Biden's business partner, if you to put it that all together. And he says he's got BlackBerry text evidence that the big guy is Joe Biden. It is, and they keep denying this, and they keep denying the facts that are, you just can't reinvent the truth, yet they try to do it. Here he goes.
Hunter Biden's defense attorney, Abby Lowell, weaponizes letters to Congress to try to smear my name
Mr. Chairman.
The cold hard facts.
Mr. Chairman.
In an attempt to save his powerfully connected client and his father. I challenge Mr. Lowell to make those claims on national television so he can be held accountable for his lies.
This guy was interviewed by Tucker Carlson a couple of years ago, and it was clear that he's got the dirt. He's the one that broke it open, that Joe Biden was at meetings, was involved in a way much more than, hey, how's the weather, as he's passing through the living room and Hunter happens to be there with his business partners. I mean, it was more than that. And he said so. And he's calling Raskin and others out who are trying to defend the indefensible. But then I love this moment because Raskin's just looking at him with such utter contempt from the high and mighty dais on which they perch, these Congress people. And it's okay to perch, but when you've got the high and mighty dais, you don't need to be contemptible to the little guy testifying in front of you. And then it gets so good here. Listen to the qualifications of Bobulinski.
Prior to my successful business career, I was an officer in the United States Navy. At Navy's Elite Naval Nuclear Power Training Command, I later served as the command's chief technology officer.
Okay, so he stops and he looks up because Raskin's creating, a disturbance. And he looks up and he stops in dead mid-sentence and he looks up at the dais. And this is when it gets so good.
I apologize for the disruption from the...
Okay. Am I supposed to say it's my time, Mr. Raskin?
Yeah.
Oh, that was so rich. That was just so good. So good. And then there's other audio. We're going to play this. Here's AOC getting in his face. Maybe she should just stick to making Frappuccino lattes.
Frappuccino lattes? Really?
Frappuccino lattes.
Okay.
Yeah, Frappuccino.
Me while I was putting together a business
Did you
deal.
witness the president commit a crime? Is it your testimony today?
Yes.
And what crime have you witnessed?
How much time do I have to go through it?
It is simple. You name the crime. Did you watch him steal something?
Corruption statutes, RICO, and conspiracy.
What is it? What is the crime, sir?
You
specifically.
You asked me to answer the question. I answered the question.
No.
RICO, you're obviously not familiar with. Corruption statutes.
Excuse me, sir. Excuse me, sir. RICO is not a crime. It is a category. What is the
It's a category of crimes that you're then charged.
You have charges.
A long 100.
You have charges. Sir, please
Want me to name the
name
exact statute
Sir,
under RICO?
yes.
Well, it's funny. In this committee room, everyone's not here. There's over 8
All right, sir. I reclaim my
lawyers that went to law school.
I'm sorry, but this just warms my heart to see the little guy, and I mean, he's certainly a man with some military credibility. The guy, he has not been charged with anything, by the way. This witness is not tainted. And to just see him talk back to these people who are condescending. And you know what I love, Hannah? Would you just go out into the other room? You know what I love, guys? And my daughter and my daughters and wife who listen, they love it. I love when only women can do this particular move. I haven't figured out about their anatomy. Only women can do this head thing from side to side. You know, excuse me, AOC's doing that. The head goes from the left shoulder to the right shoulder. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And she's in his face. Excuse me. I think it's fantastic.
You almost hear her fingers snapping in the background.
And Randy, when you played the soundbite, and I hope the listeners listen to that very carefully, notice the Congressman Ocasio-Cortez never gives him a chance to answer. Right. She must. There had to have been at least 7 or 8 times where she interrupted when he was trying to answer. He was talking about RICO and things like that. And they put him on TV. These hearings on TV, and some of them just play to the cameras. I mean, and I've seen Republicans do it as well.
By humiliating the witness or trying to.
Well,
yes.
in some cases, but in this case, he was trying to answer the question. He was talking about RICO and some of the other things, but she would not let him answer the question. I just, the chairman, why didn't the chairman step in? I don't understand.
Well, he did at some point.
At some point, but the reality, let him answer the question, and then you follow up with a follow-up, but I've just never understood that.
I don't like to overplay what I think is a fantastic moment, but I just have to do it. I mean, I just have to. Here he is now going after Congressman Ro Khanna. And if you listen carefully to what he says, California, very liberal congressman, very articulate, well-spoken.
He's been here to Missouri several times. Mm-hmm.
And here he is now. he's got him in his target.
Donalds, I'd just actually like to spend 20 seconds. If you noticed, Congressman Khanna scurried out of here very quickly, and I'm actually disgusted as I sit here that he didn't address me based on the fact that I'm sitting here in front of the world trying to testify to the truth. In October 2020, I have messages I'm willing to produce to both the Democrats and the Republicans that Ro Khanna sent to me saying, you have always demonstrated to me that you're nothing but an honest with the highest integrity individual. And I was begging for him to go on CNN and tell the world in October 2020. I have extensive emails with Congressman Ro Khanna in 2021 and 2022 where I begged him and his staff to sit down with me and look at my BlackBerry phones that the Democrats are so focused on, to hire forensics experts and go through all of the factual information I had. So the fact that he did not even address me and then scurried out of here is disgusting to me.
I mean,
wow.
That it is critically important, ladies and gentlemen, for you to hear that. When you were right, and you have documentary evidence that you're right, and you're either dismissed, demeaned, disrespected, ignored, speak truth to power. Speak truth to power.
But
God love Tony Bobulinski.
But again, for our listeners out there, our audience on KWS and 93.9 The Eagle, they're nodding their heads. They're hearing. They're probably 90% of them, if not more, agreeing with you. But remember, at 9 o'clock on TV, millions of people are going to tune into ABC and the View.
They don't even cover it.
Joy Behar will never play that soundbite. She will not. Whoopi Goldberg will not play that soundbite. The rest of them, I couldn't tell you the names of them, but I see them on there.
Probably won't even address the issue.
Well, and if they do, it's just them. They never, ever, and then they interrupt each other, and it's just, yeah, it's. But the point of the matter is there's a significant population that will not hear that. They will not. So, very powerful.
Similarly, though,
there were some exchanges where there were actually Democrats that questioned some stuff that you could say is newsworthy, but I did not understand why Khanna had walked out. I only heard that he had walked out, but nobody explained it. Now he explained it there. That's pretty powerful. But few people have the chance to sit down and watch an entire hearing like that. But he's saying he had tried to get Khanna to look at this, Congressman Khanna, a couple of years ago. So we'll see. And again, we'll see what happens.
And here's the deal. The process crime that these guys, I don't mean in a criminal sense, but the process crime that a Raskin, that an AOC, that a Khanna are guilty of is let the man speak. If instead of ignoring him, instead of condescending, instead of arrogantly dismissing him, let him speak. And if you have a better argument, do it. I think there's a very good argument that I as far as I know, if Mark Alford's kid gets hired at some company in Kansas City, that's not a crime. Okay? I mean, names matter. Networking matters. That's the way of the world. And I think that in some ways the Republicans have overplayed that. If Hunter Biden goes to China and says, hire me because my dad's the vice president, and they buy it hook, line, and sinker, that's fine. But if they can show a connection that public policy was altered as a result, or that there was somehow some transfer of money implicit in that, I get that, okay? And I think we try to, and we call Trump out occasionally, and that gets listeners mad at us. Trump, I had the biggest audience ever for my inauguration. No, you didn't, Donald. You just didn't. Flat out, you didn't. Okay? Don't misrepresent the truth.
And we've got, there's a...
That doesn't mean he can't be a good president.
And I do agree with you about letting people speak and then go back and forth. So
My take on it with Bobulinski kind of missed his opportunity with AOC when she said, well, name the crime. And you go, okay, how about a federal tax indictment like the vice president at the time's son was facing? There's a crime for you.
Absolutely, yeah.
And he did not say that, as far as I know. But again, she kept interrupting him, though. So it was just it is a different world. It is a different world, and I would go back. The last thing I'd say about this, I would go back to President Ford at the time testified on Capitol Hill before almost all Democrats after he had pardoned Nixon. And at the time, the media really thought they were grilling him. They were actually they were tough questions. He didn't have an attorney with him at the table, no lawyer at the table. It was the President of the United States himself sitting at the witness table. Google it, folks. You can see the picture. It never happened before. It'll probably never happen again. That they were respectful. Now
folks that are with us this morning, Phil Stiles and Amy Schroeder, can maybe hire me for some temporary lawn mowing. I love the smell of mown grass. I
put you to work.
I did a little bit this Sunday. They're in studio with us. How you doing, guys and gals?
Great. Thanks for having us.
Need any mowers down there? I love that smell.
Well, I'm sure if you're one of the lucky few who can avoid allergy season, then they'd be happy to have you.
Yeah, I do pretty well that range. So things are busting out all over, right? Spring is now 2 days old. Second day of spring today. And tell us about what's going on this month.
Well, we have a lot going on. We are taking summer program registrations for all of our summer activities, ranging from day camp, swim lessons, golf lessons, you name it. At the end of this month, on Saturday, March 30th, is the 37th annual Easter egg hunt. That will be held at Memorial Park beginning at 11 o'clock. And we co-host that with the Jefferson City JCs. And what we do is we divide the park up into 4 different sections, and we let the 4 different age groups go on staggered starts. So parents, if you have kids that are ranging from 9 to 2 years old, we can accommodate that.
Talk to us about, and even with a sunny, warm forecast, a little bit of rain, talk to us about Ice Arena, Ice Show and all.
Yeah, the 62nd annual Ice Show is coming up the weekend of April 12th through the 14th. On Friday and Saturday, the show runs or begins at 7 o'clock. The Sunday show begins at 2 o'clock. Tickets for pre-sale are going on now. You can purchase your tickets at the Ice Arena for $12. The day of the show, ticket prices increases to $14.
And we're talking about kids not too long, maybe down the road looking at getting out of school. And that means pool season's right around the corner, isn't it?
That's right. If you're looking for a great Easter basket stuffer, we do sell season pool passes. A family pool pass for up to 4 members of a family is $250. If you need additional family members assigned to that pool pass, it's $30 per person on top of the $250 fee. A youth and senior adult pool pass for the season is $100, and an adult season pool pass is $115.
We should mention that on those days when John and Brian and Randy are at the pool, that they get a discount for having to look at us. Is that part of the plan?
That would be the Jefferson City Parks and Rec Speedo discount, they call it.
Sorry, John, I just couldn't resist.
Phil, before we let you out of here, talk to us about potential renovations for the pool properties.
Recently, we had a pool consultant come in to evaluate Memorial Park Family Aquatic Center. That pool was originally built in the early 50s. And then in 1993, I believe, we did the current renovation. So, that pool's been around forever. And obviously, when you have an old facility, it needs some maintenance to it. And there's some talks about, obviously we'll get through this season, but there's.
Hey, we're running out of time. We want to make sure we get the website out there. Where do folks check?
It is www.jeffcityparks.com.
All right. Thanks, Phil. Thanks, Amy. See you tomorrow.